I would like to call the Nashville Town Council called meeting to order on this Thursday, June 11th at 6 p.m. Let us stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Lord, we invite you into this room and ask for your continued guidance as we make these important decisions for the citizens of Nashville. Amen.
Amen.
All right, so our first item for consideration and discussion is the discussion and consideration of water and sewer upgrades on Eastern Avenue. And Randy, do you want me to read this or would you like to?
Well, I could summarize it, give everybody some background, and for those that are at home listening in. So I think most people know that the North Carolina DOT is undertaking a project to 4-lane Eastern Avenue between Nashville and Rocky Mount. And part of that project obviously is within our jurisdiction. And, you know, this thing is scheduled to happen. Some of the utility relocates will begin early next year, and then the road widening will take place thereafter. But in order to widen that, some of the utilities out there that the town has have to be relocated. We currently have a 16-inch water line from Camlar Road coming into Nashville. It's our connection with Rocky Mount. As you know, we get part of our water from Rocky Mount, and then we supply, you know, about 65% of our own water from our wells. So that 16-inch line coming past the John Deere dealer to Regency Drive is all on the north side. And then once it hits Regency Drive, it goes underneath Eastern Avenue and continues the rest of the way into town on the south side, you know, past Walmart and Murphy's and the credit union and Smithfield's, you know, and then it continues on. But it stops at Red Oak Road, the scope of this widening project. So when it gets to Regency, right now, the water main drops in size from 16-inch to 12-inch. All of it's going to be rebuilt. So I had asked the DOT for a price on increasing the size of that 12-inch pipe to 16. You know, they're going to have the same, they're going to be digging at the same depth. They're going to have the same width trench. They have all the other obstacles to go through and around. The only difference is, you know, a bigger pipe and of course all your T's and fittings and valving instead of 12-inch or 16-inch. So they came back, Barnhill Contractors in Rocky Mount have a design build agreement with the DOT to do the 4-lane widening project and these utility relocations. So I had reached out to Barnhill and they have given us a price on upsizing that water main from, Regency to Red Oak Road. And that price with engineering is $141,334. That's what it will cost. Now, this is something the town of Nashville does not have to do. I guess I see it as a project of opportunity. And I had asked Kevin Barnell with Stocks Engineering to be here this evening to kind of give us his take on it from our town engineer standpoint. Kevin, I'd reach out to you at this time.
I'll stand on the X.
You stand on the X.
Hey guys. So obviously what we've got is the DOT is doing that widening project through, and just like Randy said, we already have that connection. The connection is there. It's a 16-inch to Regency, 12-inch into town. And our thought process was right now they're going through and relaying every bit of that line. So wherever it is right now, they're completely tearing that out and we get brand new line. And what we know is our growth is kind of headed to this in the town. We also have opportunities potentially to go north. And as just thinking through that process, our bottleneck is going to be that 12-inch line that runs in front of Walmart to really our biggest commercial area. So right now would be a great opportunity. If we were ever wanted to do that in the future, it would be extremely expensive just because of where they're going to end up putting it. based on the widening, the things that they're having to do, there won't be a lot of extra right of way left by the time gas, telephone, fiber, and all that goes in with it. So now would be a great opportunity. Obviously, it's a lot of money to talk about, but we feel like it would be a good benefit for the town moving forward if we wanted to.
Let me ask a question. Okay, from where we are now, we've got a 16 from the vault to Regency. Then it drops down from 16 to 12, all the way down to where the chicken place.
It actually comes, and I may get this slightly off, but it actually comes all the way into town.
It comes into town.
And then it jumps over somewhere around Cavalier, jumps over to the back street, or maybe it's Clarendon. It goes up Clarendon,
Okay,
cuts down Washington Street up to LBJ, and then turns back onto Washington Street coming into town.
gotcha. Okay.
So there's really a 12-inch line that kind of feeds the rest of town.
Let me, Chief, you are quite sure the town manager's going over this stuff with you. Our water supply line going out by the cemetery, going out to Regular Store Road,
Yes, sir.
out that way. We don't have a loop that brings it back into Nashville down to 64 Duke.
No, sir.
So with a 12-inch line in the future, if we decided to put up to loop that line to give us more water volume, that 12-inch would not hold, it will suck it dry with
No, the 12-inch will not. It's got to be a bigger line supporting
to a smaller line.
That's the only way to read the whole circular system is going to work.
Uh-huh.
Anytime. That would be called a primary feed,
Mhm.
and then the other one's going to be your secondary feed. You want to make sure your secondary feed is smaller than your main feed line.
Right.
So you want that line to be bigger.
So we need
So,
to,
and if I'm not mistaken, Kevin might can answer, from Rocky Mount to that vault's a 24-inch line, isn't it?
I did not remember.
I believe it is. I believe it's a 24, then it drops down to the 16 on our side, and then it switches.
it
over.
comes on in. Okay.
Right. So when you look at it from that side, tying it in, the bigger line would work for future growth, and that's what you
Right.
have to look like is for what's your future growth in that area, and that is the heavy side of town right now for growth.
I don't like the big numbers, and we just come off of trying to get a budget going. But I mean, like you just said, we are growing, and really that's the only place we got to grow. And with the apartments and stuff coming in, I think that loop is something we're gonna end up needing anyway. And to dig into it 5 years from now, what would it cost us then 5 years from now?
It will be a hefty increase, won't it?
It would be.
Would this be a part of the 2021 budget?
I would plan, the budget we just passed would have to be amended for this project. I don't know if it'll all get expended in FY '21. The DOT isn't as far along with this project as they had hoped to be. Because of COVID-19, some of the review and the engineering has gotten delayed on it. Last I heard, talking with Kim Moore with the DOT, is she thought we wouldn't have to pay for any of this stuff if we decide to do it until calendar year 2022.
So we wouldn't need any new money until 2022.
Now, I'm not going to guarantee that. Barnhill seems confident that once they get the engineering done and the DOT signs off on it, they're doing it.
So it could very easily be in the present budget.
Well, after July 1st, yes. Yeah. Now, the good news, and if Sam was here, she would tell you this, we do have this 141,000 in reserves. It's not money we have to go out and borrow or take from something else. It's in our enterprise fund reserves.
It's already there.
Yes.
Seems to me it's in our advantage to take an opportunity.
I agree. It would.
I was going to ask the 24-inch to the 16 and then the 12, that's a lot of pressure.
Well,
It is, Ms. Hinton, but the further that line goes out, the further it gets away from it, the faster it drops.
The weaker it gets.
Yes. I mean, it does, it sounds like it just stays, but it doesn't. But when the line gets to the end of a dead end, it drops off a whole lot. So it does, it just sounds like because you got a 24 feet, a 16 to a 12, the pressure, the further it goes out, the friction loss in it just keeps bearing down on it. That's what causes it to lose volume.
we need to make a motion to go forward with any one of these, or?
If you want to hear them all first and then make motions, or if you want to make a motion as we go, either way will work.
Well, how much, looking at the rest of them, how much are we? Just go ahead and explain the rest of them.
Sure, sure.
See what we got here.
So, I had asked Barnhard for prices.
Barnhart.
Barnhill, I'm sorry, Barnhill
Okay.
for prices on 9 different upgrades.
Okay,
And some of them, after talking with the fire chief, were just, the new water main's going to be on the north side. We have development on the south side. Eastern Avenue is going to be 4-lane. If the fire hydrants are on the north side and we have a fire on the south side, we got to roll hose all the way across, 4 lanes instead of 2 when this is finished. What would it cost to run a couple 8-inch water lines to the south side and put fire hydrants there for fire protection? So that would be items 3 and 2, and I believe 5. So they probably average about $36,000 per crossing. Now, when I saw that, my first thought was, well, we don't need to do these. If we don't, we're no worse off than we are right now. All of Glover's commercial buildings, they don't have fire hydrants on their side now. Even the small subdivision just to the east of
Can you
Wall.
hear me now?
Are you there, Brenda?
I am.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you, Brenda.
Good to be there.
So when I saw those prices for those water crossings, my first thought was, now let's not enter a discussion on those because we're really not gaining anything more. But then I also asked, part of this project also, the water main on the north side, the DOT at its expense is going to be constructing a sanitary sewer line from our Regency lift station, which is on the north side of Eastern Avenue in the Regency subdivision, under Eastern Avenue to the south side, and then from there all the way out to Camlar Road. And they're doing that so those properties of Glover's, the commercial buildings out there, they have septic systems in their front yard. And when they acquire the right-of-way for the 4-lane, they're going to take those septic systems out. So the DOT has to make those properties whole when everything's said and done. And when I suggested to them that they work with the town of Nashville to run a sewer line out there, they were eager to jump on that and explore that. And they came back and said, yes, we will do that. And we will build this 8-inch gravity flow sanitary sewer line. And when it's done, we will convey it to the town, and it'll be the town's to own and operate. We don't pay a thing for that. They're doing it all because they have to make those properties whole. And they feel, I'm assuming, they feel building the sewer line is cheaper than buying out those properties. So now, having said that, there is some existing development on both sides that could take advantage of a sewer system being out there. So I asked for some prices at the various existing developments out there, what it would cost. Market Leader Realty, they're in town limits. They're on the north side, but they don't have sanitary sewer. They wanted it, but because of the big gully behind them, they weren't able to gravity flow. This gives them the opportunity. And, the price came back at $4,500, for them to have a sewer line brought to their side and just terminate it. Then they would have an expense of going up to their property at $4,500. Now, I haven't heard back from Anna and Renee on whether they want that or not, but it's a rather small cost compared to putting an 8-inch sewer line, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Also, there are 2 properties about midway between Walmart and Camlar Road. There are 2 houses there, Julie Howard and Joel Keels, and they're going to be losing their well. Their well is in the front, so the DOT has to run a water line from the north side to the south side to serve those. So I was thinking, well, they're already going to have a trench there. What would it cost? The sewer's going right by it. What would it cost to put in a sewer connection for those 2 houses? Well, $1,500. Actually with engineering, $1,558. So I guess my thought, that sewer past their houses is going to be 22 feet deep. And even if they don't want to connect at this point and don't want to pay the 1,500, my thought was, there's no way in the future we could ever go out there with our own equipment, dig that up, put a T in the line and give them a sewer connection for $1,500. It just wouldn't happen. It'd be much more expensive. But anyway, getting down to item number 9, which is what I really wanted to talk to you, the council about. I'd asked for 3 8-inch sewer crossings from the south side to the north side. One that would line up with what Woda Copper Company proposing for their apartment building on David Rose's property, just on the west side of his property. One in the middle of David Rose's property is 60 acres, and then one at the John Deere dealer. And those would be an 8-inch line brought across with a manhole that then could be used to provide sanitary sewer service for all of that area north of Eastern Avenue for future development. Well, the only one that's going to really happen at this time is the apartment building. And in order for the apartment building to be there, I believe they need to have access to sewer, town sewer. So I think Dennis Blackburn, he's not, oh, well, maybe he's watching on YouTube, I don't know. So he had inquired about a crossing large enough for that apartment building. Now, that is going to be an $8.8 million development, 55 housing units added to town. That's the construction cost, I'm sure. I'm not sure what the taxable value of that will be afterwards. It might be slightly less. But, there's a significant private investment there. And my thought was, ask the council if you would entertain paying basically the $57,000 that it would cost to get that sewer across there, or share in some combination with the developer on that.
The 171 would be the entire for everything.
All 3 of them.
Oh, now what about the 3 houses that are going toward Rocky Mount? As soon as you pass Regency Drive, there are 3 houses right there on the left, 2 right there together, and there's one down a little bit further. Would they be able to benefit on the sewer line from this if we did it that way?
They would, but their cost would probably be in that $4,500 range.
Their cost.
The cost of getting them a 4-inch line, significantly less than an 8-inch. And the one house is going to be acquired and it's going to go away.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
The last one on the left?
Yeah, the furthest to the east.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we're going to talk about 2 houses
2 houses.
after you leave.
And I only heard from one of those 2 property owners who was even interested.
Okay.
The other one had no interest because I guess they got an adequate septic system and
Until
fine
it,
with it.
until it backs up. Yeah. Okay.
until it fails. But so David Rose's property in the middle of that 60 acres, again, a sewer line across to provide sewer for that property as it develops, $57,000. Now, when I talked to David about that, his first reaction, well, that's an awful lot of money. And I don't disagree. It's a good chunk of change. And I guess at this point, he's inclined not to do that, knowing that if he does have development in the future, he's going to have access to sewer. It just might cost more to get under the highway to the south side to get it and bring it to the north side. But he certainly would consider partnering with the town of Nashville and sharing some of those costs if the council was so inclined to do so. And then the third one was at the John Deere dealer. Now, when I talked with the owner of East Coast Equipment, again, they don't need an 8-inch line. They can easily get by with a 4-inch because all they have is a couple restrooms and some hand washing stations. So when I reached out to Chuck Braswell, who is the contractor that Barnhill is going to have do this infrastructure work, Chuck said the price for a 4-inch line for the John Deere dealer would be in that $5,000 to $4,500 range. And East Coast was okay with that. Now they know that they also have to take it from their property line and run it up to their building. So the 3 sewer crossings that I originally asked for prices for, one for sure, and possible discussion with the council on the second one at David Rose's property. So with that as the background on it, I guess I'd open it up to the council and see what your thoughts are on it.
So am I looking at this right? 141, which we already have in a fund already, no new money. 141,334.
In reserve.
Reserves.
We already got that in the reserves. Okay. Down to the very last one, 171,252, that covers the whole shooting shebang, everything.
All 3 of those 8-inch
All
crossings.
3 of them, right?
All 3 of the sewer crossings, but you're not lumping in the 141 to that 171, right?
Well, grand total of 446.
Oh, shoot, that's why I asked
Yeah.
that question.
Yeah, that,
Yes. That would be the total of both the water upgrades and these 3 sewer crossings.
Now, that did hurt. Okay.
But what I'm telling you is we don't need 3 8-inch sewer crossings at this
No, we
time.
don't.
Now, how would that benefit us right now? I know it would benefit the property owners right now. And it would benefit the fact that it's not going to cost more in the future. But as far as what we would gain, I can see what we would gain from the 141. Because that's our future development, our future growth. But having the sewer crossings, if people are going to need it in the future and have to do it anyway, I guess my concern would be spending the money now.
The benefit, Kate, would be it's there and it's already done.
Right.
You know, I don't know how much lead time it would take if it's not there. I mean, permitting obviously with DOT, lining up a contract to do, a jack and bore in case and run to the other side easily could probably be 2-3 months.
To me, I think the biggest concern would be a smaller project comes in, and let's say a new East Coast equipment comes in,
Mhm.
they would never be able to afford to bore underneath the street to bring that sewer across. Where a larger development, even the apartment complex probably could absorb that. So that's kind of,
But we lose out on smaller.
you would limit the smaller business possibilities of doing that. And again, I think it can be mitigated and worked through, but that's kind of what you're losing in that process. But a large development easily can bore underneath the road, easily can make the tie just like we are. The cost will probably be about the same for them later. So it's really an opportunity cost if that's something we want to wait.
And as far as properties requiring annexation for any sort of hookup,
Yes, it's pretty much the town's policy now to get, unless you're already in existing development and water and sewer goes by. But for new development that needs the water and sewer, the town is required annexation in order to receive that benefit.
so the only property out there that really needs it right now is Rhoda Cooper.
Correct.
and have they mentioned anything about cost sharing?
When I talked to Dennis today, he would prefer if the town would incur the 57,085, but he's open to anything the council wants to consider. I mean, his first comment was, obviously you realize a company's putting $8.8 million investment into the town of Nashville, creating 55 new housing units. And, it's a significant investment on their part, and it's not unusual for developers to ask the host community or town, city for some contribution and aid to construction for bigger projects. I'd say it's more the norm.
He said he is watching via YouTube, but if you need to, you can call him. and ask him questions.
Did you care to hear from Mr. Blackburn? We can give him a call.
I'd like to see them maybe participate in the cost with the town. For one reason, and something that you and I talked about a little bit, and I'm not up to speed on this 100%, but I do know that the State's Machinery Act, as it relates to property tax valuation, requires, and this is fairly recent, maybe in the last 5 or 8 years, requires that properties be valued not necessarily at their market value during revaluation, but at their rental value. And so I understand they're talking about an $8+ million investment, but we don't know at this point exactly what benefit that would be to us. So I could see that maybe this is a little bit of a trade-off for us because the best investment for our purposes may not be quite as great. And, you know, I just think it's, I'd like to see them maybe participate if they would be willing.
Larry, did you have any?
I could see doing a 50%.
I'll share with WODA.
50%.
How about the sewer crossing with
I
David?
don't want to put a percentage on it right now, but I am inclined to agree that I would like for them to participate in some amount.
Well, it'd make their decision easier if there was a, you know, decision here this evening about how much the town would contribute.
Well, she said 50%. If everybody else agrees with 50%, then I'll go along with the rest of the council.
How about this? How about a second 8-inch sewer crossing for that 60 acres that's between the John Deere dealer and where this apartment's going to go? Any consideration on that?
I think that's imminent.
If we could get some cost sharing, I think from David Rose, I would consider it. And I hate the fact that we would be limiting ourselves in what type of businesses could come here if we don't have it in place. But we do have a tight budget right now, so.
I'm sure any participation the council would agree to do, David would certainly be open to that.
So do we want to do a 50% participation with David Rose as
The
well?
one for David
Yes.
for 50%?
Brenda, do you have any thoughts on this or questions?
Well, I like what Lynn said. I think because exactly what she was saying, you can have a lot of rental property, but if it's not there, you aren't going to get what you expected. And I would be willing to ask these others to share with us. I don't know what percent I would say, but I would be willing to let them be a true partner in sharing with us on that.
And Brenda, to be clear, you're talking about the 2 8-inch sewer crossings.
Right.
So it sounds like there's some consensus that the town would cost share 50% with WODA Copper Company. And then the question would be for a second 8-inch sewer crossing that would serve the vacant or well currently undeveloped 60 acres that David Rose has.
So a question, Randy, related to the Market Leader Realty, the Joe Kill property, those three, those will be handled by those individual.
Unless, of course, you
Spots.
wanted to consider something for them too. You know, it was pointed out to me that Coastal Equipment or East Coast Equipment has been in town for a better part of 15 years,
Yeah.
paying their property taxes, and they've never had access to town sewer before, yet they paid their taxes faithfully all those years and haven't gotten as much in return for that as, you know, people in town,
Yeah.
so to speak, that have paid all, who have access to all that.
So is there a request for cost sharing on their part?
They wouldn't turn it down, Kate. Not a formal request, but
So do we need a motion on item 1 and then item 9?
I would enter a motion that we do go ahead with item 1.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay,
and that is to have Barn Hill go ahead with upsizing that water main from 12 to 16 inch.
Yes. And I guess we need a little bit more discussion on the other.
so more discussion on number 9.
Mhm.
Okay,
Number 9. Okay.
so do you mean in the future, or do you mean we can make a motion right now to do a cost sharing, correct?
Yes. You know, does the council want to make a motion to cost share with WODA Copper on an 8-inch sewer line from the south side of Eastern Avenue to the north side in support of their apartment building project that they're proposing to do out
So
there.
moved.
Second.
Okay, we've got a
And-
motion and a second
To what extent would that cost sharing be?
50%.
for 50%. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. So was there any further discussion on, so we said 3, 2, and 5 we're not doing because those are not necessary, correct?
We can get by without those, yes.
Okay. And was there any further discussion on 6, 7, 8?
Kate, if I may, back to item 9, which included,
Sure.
3 8-inch sewer crossings, one for East Coast equipment, which isn't needed, but the other 2, you've gotten a motion a second. For the first one with Woda Copper Company, how about a second 8-inch sewer crossing that would
Sorry, I thought
line
those
up
were two
with David
together.
Rose's property?
We have a motion to cost share with David Rose. No,
Yes, I'll offer them a cost share with him because, I mean, the people, he's the only one out there that we're not touching bases with. So if he's willing to, we'll cost share with him at the same rate, 50%.
50%.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
All right.
No.
All those who
No.
oppose,
Okay.
okay.
Now what's our next move if he chooses not to? Cost share, we just leave him? No, don't run,
Do it.
Nobody does the 50%.
just don't run the over there to him.
Right. We don't do that. If he doesn't want to pay his 50%,
Right.
we don't do it at all.
We don't do it at all.
Kate, was yours for that motion?
Yes.
And you said no, right?
I said no.
3 yeses, 1 no.
Share with me. Why are you saying,
Undeveloped acres. We don't
Okay.
know.
okay, because
It's not immediate.
it's undeveloped and there's no future plans to do anything out there to except for farmland. I already put the motion out there, but I agree with what she says.
I think we all agree with that, but I think we all see the potential too of what could be out there, and it would be
Right.
a shame to limit that. Okay, so was there anything else in number 9 that we needed to discuss?
No.
No? Okay. So any discussion on 6, 7, 8? Or are we finished with our business for the evening? Okay,
I think that covers everything, doesn't it?
all right, so I think we're finished with our business. Did anyone have any comments before we close? Louise? No? No comments tonight? Okay, Larry?
No?
No? Lynn, any comments tonight?
I'm good.
All right, well, thank you to everyone who was watching tonight. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
I move second. All right, we are adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Oh,
Brenda.
Thanks, Brenda.
Hey.